I came back from the doctor and found a note on the refrigerator. Mom, my wife and I are traveling to Miami. Do not call. We want privacy. Signed, Caleb, my son. I felt a hollow pit in my stomach. I ran toward my bedroom, toward the walk-in closet, toward the safe where I kept my savings from 10 years. I dialed the combination with trembling hands. The door opened. Empty. Completely empty. $200,000 evaporated. Every penny I gathered working double shifts as a registered nurse. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, all stolen by my own son. And that woman, Bianca, who swore to love me like a mother. They left me a cold note and took off to Miami with my entire life converted into cash. They thought I was going to cry alone. They thought I was going to stay paralyzed, calling them in desperation, begging for explanations. They thought I was a stupid old woman who was going to sink into depression while they enjoyed my dollars on sunny beaches. How wrong they were. Because what Caleb and Bianca did not know is that I had spent 6 months preparing for this exact moment. 6 months planning something they would never see coming. 6 months pretending to be exactly what they wanted me to be. A confused, weak, easily manipulated old lady. But behind that mask, there was a lucid mind constructing their downfall. They did not know that every tear I shed in front of them was calculated, that every gesture of confusion was pure theater, that while they treated me like a useless person who could barely remember where she left her keys, I was preparing something much bigger, something devastating. And now they were on a plane heading to Miami, celebrating their big score, believing they had won. They had no idea of the surprise awaiting them at the airport, a surprise that I orchestrated with surgical precision. Because when you rob the wrong person, the price you pay is measured in public humiliation and total destruction. But let me tell you from the beginning, because this story did not start today with a note on the refrigerator and an empty safe. It started 3 years ago when I buried my husband and was left alone with a paid-off apartment, a decent pension, and those $200,000 in savings. The day I became a perfect target for predators sharing my own blood. My name is Margaret. I am 67 years old. I worked 42 years as a nurse at General Hospital. I watched babies being born. I saw the elderly die. I saw families destroy themselves over inheritances. And I saw others unite through genuine love. I thought I knew human nature. I thought my son was different. How naive I was. When Caleb introduced me to Bianca 5 years ago, something in my gut screamed at me to run. She was 33 years old, 8 years younger than my son. She smiled too much. Her hugs felt rehearsed. Her compliments sounded hollow. But I stayed silent because a mother who criticizes her son's partner becomes the monster of the story. Because Caleb seemed happy. Because I wanted to believe that he had finally found someone. The wedding was small, intimate. Bianca invited almost no one from her family. We are estranged, she explained with teary eyes, a lie that I now recognize as a giant red flag. My husband did not trust her either. One night, he told me that woman has shark eyes. She smiles, but she feels nothing. I shushed him. I asked him not to ruin our son's happiness. Now those words haunt me every night. The first 2 years were normal. Occasional visits, family dinners, phone calls. Bianca played her role of the charming daughter-in-law. She gave me things I would never use, scarves in horrible colors, perfumes that gave me allergies, books she knew I was not going to read, generic gifts that shouted, I do not care about you, but I need you to think I do. But I smiled and said thank you because that is what good mothers-in-law do. Because I wanted to be part of their life. Everything changed when my husband died. It was sudden, a heart attack while he slept. One night, we went to bed as always, And the next morning, I woke up hugging a cold body. The funeral was a blur of tears and empty condolences. Caleb was by my side the whole time, holding me, drying my tears. Oh, that is what I believed. Now I know he was calculating, measuring how much my grief was worth. How long would it take to turn me into his next source of income? 2 months after the funeral, Caleb appeared at my house on a Saturday morning. He brought coffee and donuts, my favorite breakfast. "Mom, we need to talk about your financial security." He sounded worried, protective. "You have to be careful. There are a lot of bad people who take advantage of widows, scammers, salespeople, fake advisors." The irony now turns my stomach. He convinced me to give him access to my bank account just for emergencies. "Mom, to help you if you need something and cannot go to the bank. You know that sometimes you have trouble remembering things." That was the first time he insinuated that I was losing my mental faculties. I was 64 years old and my mind was perfect. But he planted the seed of doubt, and I, like an idiot, signed the papers. I gave him access. I handed him the keys to my destruction. The request for money started soft, almost imperceptible. $5,000 to fix the car. "Mom, it broke down on the highway. We need the money today." I transferred it without asking. 3 weeks later, $10,000 for a business that Bianca wanted to start. "It is a unique opportunity. We will pay you back in 6 months." I never saw a penny back. Afterward, it was $15,000 because they had unexpected medical expenses, $20,000 to remodel the kitchen, $8,000 for a course Caleb needed for his job. I gave and gave because he was my son. Because I thought I was investing in his future. Because every time I hesitated, Caleb would hug me and whisper, "You are the best mother in the world. I do not know what I would do without you." Now those words sound like knives entering my back. 2 years ago, Bianca arrived one afternoon at my apartment. She came alone, something unusual. She sat on my sofa with a worried face and took my hands in hers. "Mom, Caleb and I are very worried about you. Living alone at your age is not safe. What happens if you fall? What happens if you get sick and no one is there to help you?" She framed it as genuine love, as family concern, as if they really cared about my well-being. "Come live with us. We have space. We can take care of you. We will be a real family." Her eyes filled with fake tears. Tears that I now recognize as the performance of an expert predator. I accepted because I was alone, because I missed having people around, because I wanted to believe that my son loved me enough to want to share his home with me. I sold some furniture. I packed my belongings, and I arrived at their house with 2 suitcases and the illusion that my final years would be filled with company. The first month was perfect. Too perfect. Bianca cooked my favorite meals. Caleb took me to the doctor and the grocery store. We watched movies together at night. I felt loved. I felt part of something. I felt as if I had finally found my place after my husband's death. And just when I lowered all my defenses, just when I felt safe and cherished, the masks began to fall. "Margaret, can you wash these clothes? I just arrived so tired." A small request, reasonable. I did it without complaining. The next day, Margaret prepared dinner for 7 Arid. We are going to arrive hungry. Afterward, Margaret cleaned the bathroom. It is filthy. And just like that, little by little, without me realizing it, I stopped being the mother-in-law and became the unpaid domestic employee. But that was not the worst part. The worst was how they spoke to me. Caleb started talking to me as if I were a small child. "Mom, did you take your pills?" With that condescending tone they use with dementia patients. "Mom, do not go out alone. You might get lost. Me who drove through this city for 40 years, Mom better not drive anymore. You are too old. You could cause an accident." Every day they took away a piece of my autonomy. Every week, they turned me more into a piece of furniture that breathed, that cleaned, that cooked, but that had no voice or vote. When I tried to give an opinion on something, Bianca would interrupt me. "Oh, Mom, it is not done like that anymore. Times have changed." When I wanted to go out to visit my friends, Caleb made excuses. "I cannot take you today. Mom better stay home. It is too hot for you to be walking in the street." They were locking me in. They were erasing me. They were turning me into a prisoner in a house that was not mine, with people who were supposed to love me. And the worst of all is that every time I took money out of the bank, Bianca magically appeared with a new emergency. "Mom, the washing machine broke down. We need $3,000 urgently. Margaret, the car needs new tires. That is $4,000. Mom, we have to pay the house insurance. That is $6,000. Always urgent, always necessary. Always my responsibility because I lived with them, because they gave me a roof, because they fed me, as if I had not already given them more than $80,000 in 2 years, as if cooking, cleaning, and washing their clothes was worth nothing, as if my presence was a burden they endured out of charity. But I kept pretending I did not notice. I kept smiling when Caleb kissed my forehead. I kept saying, "Thank you, children." When they left me the leftovers of their dinner, I kept acting like the silly old lady they needed me to be. Because something inside me, some primitive survival instinct, told me that I had to see it all, but stay silent, that I had to wait for the right moment. And that moment arrived 6 months ago, a Tuesday afternoon that changed everything. I was in my room, supposedly taking a nap. They thought I slept 3 hours every afternoon because old people get very tired. In reality, I pretended to sleep to have peace, to not hear their hurtful comments, to not be their servant for a few hours. But that day I heard voices in the living room. Different voices. It was not the normal conversation of a couple talking about the weather or what to order for dinner. It was something urgent, excited, conspiratorial. I got out of bed without making a sound. I opened the door just a few inches and pressed my ear against the crack. When she dies, this apartment is ours, plus the savings she still has left in the bank. It was Bianca. Her voice sounded cold, calculating, excited, as if she were talking about winning the lottery. Yes, but she is taking a long time to die. My mom has the health of an ox. Caleb, my son, my baby, the boy I breastfed, who I took care of when he had pneumonia at 5 years old, who I held through every nightmare, saying those words with the same naturalness with which you ask for salt at the table. I felt the floor disappear beneath my feet, but I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not run out to confront them. Something in my brain clicked. A switch was flipped. The nurse, who had seen the worst facets of humanity for 40 years, woke up. And that woman knew that emotions kill you. That cold revenge is the only effective revenge. I stayed there listening, recording every word in my memory, as if it were an anatomy lesson I had to memorize for the final exam of my life. "We can speed things up." Bianca's voice sounded thrilled, almost childish. A nursing home would finish her off in months. I have investigated. They put them in there, fill them with medications, and in 6 months they are dead, or so gone they do not even recognize their own name. I do not know. It gives me the creeps. She is my mother. Caleb at least had a gram of guilt, a microscopic gram that disappeared with his wife's next words. "Your mother is an investment that already gave everything she could give. We already got more than $100,000 out of her, but she still has another $100,000 in that account she does not touch, and the apartment is easily worth $250,000. We're talking about more than $300,000, Caleb. $300,000 that are ours as soon as she disappears." The silence that followed was deafening. I waited for my son's defense. I waited for him to say, "You are crazy. I am not going to do that to my mother." I waited for something, anything that told me the boy I raised, still existed somewhere inside that man. You are right. Those were his words. You are right. She is already too much of a nuisance. Besides, with that money, we can go to Miami like we want. Trey is waiting for our share to open the restaurant. This is our opportunity to start over to be something more than a pair of failures supported by my mom, Trey. That name was new. A third actor in this macabre play. An accomplice waiting in Miami for my stolen money to open a business. The rage I felt in that moment was physical, as if my blood was boiling inside my veins. But I breathed. I breathed deeply like I taught first-time mothers to do in the hospital when the pain was unbearable. The plan is perfect. Bianca again with that satisfied hyena voice. We drain what is left in the bank little by little. She does not even notice. We've already gotten large amounts out of her before and she never says anything. Afterward, we tell her we need money urgently for a medical emergency of yours. We take everything out. In a week, we travel to Miami, open the restaurant with Trey, and when we come back, we put her in the cheapest nursing home we find. And if she asks about the money, Caleb sounded worried, but not regretful. Worried about being discovered, not about destroying me. We tell her we lost it in investments, or better that it was stolen, that someone cloned her card. She's already half senile. She is not going to understand. And even if she understands, what is she going to do? Report her own son? Please, that woman has forgiven us for everything always. She is a fool who lives to please me. A fool after everything I sacrificed, after all the years I worked to give him education opportunities, unconditional love. His wife called me a fool and he did not correct her. He agreed with her. He laughed. I heard his laugh. My sons laugh at the idea of robbing me, abandoning me, and destroying me. Then it is decided. Caleb sounded relieved, as if he had just taken a weight off his shoulders. In 2 weeks maximum, we have all the money. We buy the tickets to Miami. We tell her we are going on a short vacation. When we return nursing home and us finally free of this burden. Burden. His mother was a burden. The woman who gave birth to him was a burden. The $200,000 I earned with my sweat were the prize for enduring that burden for 67 years of life. I went back to my bed. I closed the door without making a noise. I sat on the edge of the mattress and looked at my hands. These wrinkled hands that changed his diapers when he was a baby, that fed him with homemade baby food, that sewed his clothes when we did not have money, that worked double shifts to pay for his college, that applauded at his graduation, that cleaned his house for 2 years, as if I were his employee. And in that moment, I made a decision. I was not going to be the victim of this story. I was not going to be the little old lady crying in a nursing home while her son spent her money in another part of the country. I was not going to give them the pleasure of seeing me destroyed. I was going to play their same game, but better, much better, because they had forgotten something fundamental. I worked 42 years in a hospital. I saw families lie about inheritances. I saw children slowly poison their parents. I saw wives falsify documents. I saw medical fraud, identity theft, elderly scams. I saw all the worst of humanity. And I learned that revenge is not served hot. It is served frozen, calculated, perfect. And right there, I understood that there was something much worse than betrayal. There was an opportunity to become their worst nightmare. That night, I did not sleep. I stayed awake in the dark of my room, staring at the ceiling, processing every word I had heard. My brain was working at breakneck speed. 42 years of experience as a nurse had taught me something valuable. People underestimate the old. They see us as useless, slow, confused. They see what they want to see. And that was going to be my weapon. The next morning, I went down to breakfast as always. Caleb was drinking coffee, checking his phone. Bianca was making scrambled eggs. She looked at me out of the corner of her eye when I entered the kitchen. Good morning, Mom. Did you sleep well? Her voice sounded sweet, but I had already seen the poison behind that mask. Yes, dear. Very well. I smiled at them, a perfect smile of an innocent old woman. We ate breakfast in silence. Caleb asked me if I had taken my blood pressure pills. I told him yes, even though I did not have high blood pressure. That was another one of their lies to make me seem sicker than I was. I said goodbye with a kiss on the cheek and went up to my room. There, my transformation began. The first thing I did was search my closet for an old box where I kept documents from my time at the hospital, contacts, phone numbers of colleagues, doctors, social workers, lawyers I met over the years, people who owed me favors, people I could trust. I found the number for Arthur, a lawyer who had been a patient of mine when he had a car accident 10 years ago. I saved his life by keeping him stable until the ambulance arrived. He told me that if I ever needed anything to call him well, that day had arrived. I dialed his number from my old cell phone, the one Caleb thought I did not know how to use. Arthur, it is Margaret, the nurse from General Hospital. Yes, the one who treated you years ago. I need your help. It is urgent and delicate. There was a pause. Are you in danger? His voice sounded concerned. Not physically, but they are trying to rob me, my own son. I need to protect my assets before it is too late. Arthur did not ask unnecessary questions. He scheduled an appointment for me at his office 2 days later. I told him I would go alone, that I could not raise suspicions. I hung up and breathed. The first step was taken, but I needed more, much more. I went down to the living room. Bianca was watching television. I sat next to her with my most innocent face. Dear, I was thinking I want to put my apartment in your name. Well, in Caleb's name. So when I die, there are no legal problems. Bianca almost fell off the sofa. Her eyes lit up like a shark smelling blood. Seriously, Mom. Oh, you do not have to do that. We are going to take care of you always. No, I insist. You have been so good to me. It is the least I can do. Lie after lie coming out of my mouth with the same ease with which she breathed. Let me talk to Caleb. He can help you with the papers. This is very generous of you. Bianca hugged me, a fake, calculated, victorious hug. I returned the hug and smiled, but inside I was taking mental notes. This confirmed everything. They were already planning to keep my property. My offer only accelerated their greed. That night during dinner, Caleb brought up the topic. Mom, Bianca told me about the apartment. Are you sure we do not want you to feel pressure? What a good actor. What a perfect performance of a concerned son. I am sure, son. I want it to be yours. You are everything I have. The words burned my throat, but I said them with conviction. Caleb nodded. Then tomorrow we will go to a lawyer. We will make everything legal and fast. Perfect. They thought they were about to win. They did not know that I was building evidence. Every move they made from now on would be documented, every lie registered, every attempt at manipulation recorded. The next day, I went to the appointment with Arthur. I took a taxi while Caleb worked and Bianca went out with her friends. Arthur's office was downtown in an old but elegant building. He received me with a genuine hug. Margaret told me everything. And I told him every detail, the conversation I heard, the plans to rob me, the nursing home, Miami, Trey, everything. Arthur listened without interrupting. When I finished, his face was serious. This is grave fraud, financial abuse of an elderly person, possible kidnapping attempt. If they put you in a facility against your will, we can act, but we need solid proof. We need more than your word against theirs. I know. That is why I need your help to get that proof. Arthur opened a notebook. First, we are going to protect your assets immediately. We are going to create an irrevocable trust. Your money is going to be legally protected. They cannot touch it without your explicit authorization in front of a judge. Second, We are going to document every transaction you have made with them in the last 2 years. Transfers, withdrawals, everything. Third, you need recordings, conversations where they admit their plans. How do I record without them suspecting? Arthur smiled. Hidden cameras and audio recorders. We install them in strategic places in the house. Living room, kitchen, their bedroom, if possible. Everything is legal because it is your property too while you live there. And we are going to hire a private investigator, someone who can follow them, verify if that guy Trey really exists in Miami. Investigate your daughter-in-law's past. My heart was beating fast. This was real. This was happening. How much time do we need? Arthur thought for a moment. 3 to 6 months. We need solid evidence. Let them bury themselves with their own words and actions. Meanwhile, you keep acting normal. In fact, act more vulnerable, more confused. Make them believe you are losing your mind. That will make them careless. I left that office with a plan, with hope, with something I had not felt in 2 years. Power. Arthur gave me the contact for Mike, a discreet and effective private investigator. I called him that same afternoon from a public phone. We met the next day at a coffee shop far from my neighborhood. Mike was a man of about 50. Serious professional. I told him the situation. He took notes and asked me specific questions. Do you know Bianca's maiden name? I did not know it. Where did she work before meeting your son? I did not know that either. I realized I knew nothing real about the woman who had stolen 2 years of my life and my money. Do not worry. I am going to investigate her thoroughly. If she has a record, I am going to find it. I am also going to verify the Miami thing and this Trey character. 2 days later, Mike installed the cameras. He entered the house disguised as an internet technician. Caleb and Bianca did not even suspect. Tiny cameras in the smoke detector, in the living room, in the kitchen clock, in the hallway outlet. 3 strategic points that captured everything. He also gave me a voice recorder the size of a button. Use it when you have important conversations with them. Activate it discreetly. From that moment on, every day was a performance. I became slower when walking. I started forgetting things on purpose. Where did I leave my glasses? When I had them in my hand, I already ate. After lunch, Caleb and Bianca exchanged looks of satisfaction. Their plan was working. I was deteriorating, or so they thought. 1 week later, Mike called me. We need to meet. I found something. We met at the same coffee shop. He opened a folder and started showing me documents. Your daughter-in-law's name is Bianca Dominguez, but that is not her first marriage. She was married before 8 years ago to a man named Armando Salazar, a widower, 65 years old. He died 2 years after getting married, apparently of natural causes. My blood froze. Apparently Mike nodded. Armando's family suspected. They filed a complaint alleging that Bianca manipulated him to change his will days before dying, but they could not prove it. Armando left everything to Bianca. House savings, life insurance, more than $300,000. The family lost everything. My God, my voice barely came out. There is more. Bianca spent all that money in less than 3 years. Trips, clothes, a boutique that went bankrupt. When she met your son, she was broke. She was looking for her next victim. And there you were, a widow with savings and property. But that was not the worst. Mike took more papers out of the folder. Photographs, images printed from social media. Trey Reyes, businessman from Miami. Well, he calls himself a businessman. In reality, he has a record for real estate fraud. He was in prison for 2 years. He got out 5 years ago. And here comes the interesting part. Trey and Bianca have known each other for 10 years. They were a couple before she married Armando. The world stopped for a second. What are you saying? Mike pointed to an old photograph. Bianca younger, hugging a dark-haired man, smiling on a beach. They have a history. Trey is her accomplice. They have done this before. The pattern is always the same. Bianca marries older men. or their children gains their trust, extracts the money, and disappears. Trey waits for her in Miami. They probably already have the restaurant planned as a front to launder the money. I felt nauseous. This was not just a greedy son and a manipulative daughter-in-law. It was a criminal operation, an organized scam, and Caleb was too stupid or too blinded to realize that he was also a victim. Or maybe he knew and did not care as long as he received his share. What about my son? Does he know all this? Mike shook his head. I do not think so. From what I have investigated, Caleb has gambling debts $80,000 with online casinos and loan sharks. Bianca knows. She is probably using it. She promises him an easy way out. Rob his mother, go to Miami, start over. He is desperate and she manipulates him. $80,000. My son had $80,000 in debt and never told me anything. He kept asking me for money for supposed emergencies while feeding his gambling addiction. He kept smiling at me while lying to me. He kept hugging me while planning to destroy me. There is more. Mike took out one last document. Bianca and Caleb already bought tickets to Miami. They leave in 2 weeks. One-way tickets, not round trip. They do not plan to come back. Margaret. They are going to take your money and disappear. The rage I felt was like lava boiling in my veins, but it was no longer the blind rage of a victim. It was the cold rage of someone who has all the cards in her hand and is waiting for the perfect moment to play them. Perfect. Let them buy the tickets. Let them make their plans. The more confident they are, the harder the fall will be. Mike smiled. It was a smile I recognized, the smile of someone who enjoys seeing criminals get what they deserve. I am going to contact a friend in the Miami police. We are going to prepare a special reception for them at the airport. I went back home that afternoon with a mental clarity I had not felt in years. Every piece was falling into place. Every lie they had told me now had context. Every manipulation made sense. And most importantly, I had control. They only thought they had it. During the following weeks, I intensified my acting. I started confusing names. I called Caleb Dad occasionally. I asked what day it was, even though I knew perfectly well. I left the stove on purpose so they would find it and worry about my mental deterioration. Caleb looked at me with pity. Bianca with barely disguised satisfaction. One night during dinner, Caleb touched on the topic of money. Mom, we need to talk about something important. Here came the big move. Bianca and I are worried about your finances. We think you should give us full access to your account to protect you from scams. There are many criminals who take advantage of elderly people. The irony was so grotesque that I almost laughed, but I kept my confused old lady face. Do you think so? I do not know, son. It is my money. We know, Mom. But you said yourself that sometimes you forget things. What happens if someone tricks you? What happens if you lose everything? We just want to take care of you. Bianca added her sweet poison. Mom, it is for your own good. Besides, someday that money is going to be Caleb's anyway. Why not make things easier now? That way, there are no legal problems later. She wanted me to sign my financial death warrant with a smile. She wanted me to hand over everything voluntarily so as not to leave a trace of theft. Let me think about it, I told them with a trembling voice. Caleb insisted. There is not much to think about, Mom. It is common sense. Tomorrow we go to the bank and fix everything. Okay, son, if you say so. I went to my room with slow steps, hunched over, defeated. But as soon as I closed the door, I took out my phone and sent a message to Arthur. Tomorrow they will try for total access to my account. We are ready. His response arrived in seconds. Ready. The trust has been active for 3 weeks. Your real money is protected. The account they will see tomorrow has only $5,000. It is the trap. If they take that money, we have evidence of theft. That night, the hidden cameras recorded a revealing conversation. Caleb and Bianca in their rooms celebrating. We did it. Tomorrow we have total access. We take everything out. We buy the plane tickets in cash so as not to leave a digital trail. And in a week, we are in Miami drinking margaritas on the beach. Bianca's voice sounded triumphant. And my mom, Caleb, asked. There was a pause. Your mom is going to be fine. We put her in the San Miguel nursing home. It is cheap, $40 a day. We pay 6 months in advance with her own money and forget about it. In 6 months, she will probably be dead or so gone that it does not matter. $40 a day. The cheapest nursing home in the city, known for its deplorable conditions for the mistreatment of patients, for abuse investigations. That is where they wanted to lock me up in a place where people go to die slowly while their families forget them. Caleb did not protest. He did not say, that is very cruel. He did not say, let's look for a better place. He just said, 6 months is enough. And Bianca responded, more than enough. Old people do not last long in those places, especially when no one visits them. The next morning, we went to the bank, me dressed like the perfect old lady. Old clothes, messy hair, insecure steps. Caleb held me by the arm as if I were going to fall at any moment. The manager received us in his office. Good morning. How can I help you? Caleb explained that they needed access to my account for health reasons, that I was forgetful and needed supervision. The manager looked at me with pity. Miss Margaret, do you agree with this? I nodded slowly. Yes, my son takes care of me. I trust him. I signed the papers. Caleb signed the papers. Bianca waited outside, unable to hide her excitement. We left the bank with Caleb euphoric ready. Mom, you do not have to worry about anything anymore. We handle everything. They took me home and sent me to rest. Sleep. Mom, you look tired. As soon as I closed the door of my room, I waited. I took out the small monitor connected to the hidden cameras. I watched them log onto the computer. I watched Caleb check the account online. I watched his face change from excitement to confusion. What is wrong? Bianca asked. There is only $5,000. What? That is impossible. She had more than $100,000 the last time I checked. Caleb navigated frantically through the screen. Here it says, there was a large transfer a month ago, $100,000 to a trust account. Bianca went pale. Trust. She made a trust. When? How? I do not know. She cannot have done this alone. Someone helped her. Someone advised her. Caleb looked somewhere between furious and terrified. His perfect plan was crumbling. Calm down. We still have the $5,000 and we can get more. She has credit cards. We can use them. Bianca tried to salvage the situation. It is not enough. Trey expects $150,000. We promised him that amount for the restaurant. Without that, there is no business, no Miami, no nothing. Then we do something else. Bianca's voice became dark, dangerous. She has the apartment. It is worth more than $200,000. We make her sign an express sale. There are buyers who pay in cash. In a week, we have the money. That is, I do not know if I can convince her to sell so fast. Of course you can. You tell her you need the money for an urgent operation to save your life. She would do anything for you. It is pathetic how much she loves you. Pathetic. My motherly love was pathetic to this woman. I watched them plan my final destruction while I recorded every word, every admission, every criminal plan. And right there, I understood that there was something much worse coming. That night, I called Arthur in controlled panic. They just discovered the trust. They plan to make me sell the apartment. They say that in a week they want the money in cash. Arthur did not sound surprised. Perfect. Let them try. The apartment is also legally protected. I registered a sale restriction in the public registry 2 weeks ago. They cannot sell without a court order proving you are mentally incapacitated. And believe me, no judge is going to declare you incapable without exhaustive medical evaluations. But they do not know that yet, I said, understanding the game. Exactly. Let them believe they can do it. The more they try, the more evidence they generate. Mike is recording everything. The cameras are capturing compromising conversations. We have irregular bank transfers from the last 2 years. We have Bianca's criminal history. We have the connection with Trey in Miami. We just need the final blow. What final blow? Arthur took a deep breath. That they tried to leave for Miami with the stolen money. That they arrive at the airport believing they won and federal agents will be waiting for them there. Bank fraud. Financial abuse of an elderly person. Attempted illegal appropriation of assets. We are talking about federal charges. Margaret, years in prison. The plan was perfect, but there was a problem. They only have $5,000. They said Trey expects $150,000. How are they going to travel without money? Arthur laughed, a cold laugh. That is where our final trap comes in. You are going to pretend to sell the apartment. You are going to sign a fake contract with a ghost buyer. You are going to give them a cashier's check for $150,000. They are going to deposit it or take it to Miami. And when they try to use it, boom, check with insufficient funds, attempted fraud. We catch them at the airport with physical evidence. It was risky. It was complicated, but it was brilliant. And if they suspect, they are not going to suspect. They are desperate. Desperation makes people make mistakes. Trust me. The following days were a play worthy of an award. Caleb started softly, "Mom, I need to talk to you about something very serious." His voice sounded broken, scared. I sat across from him with my worried face. "What is wrong, son? I had some medical tests done. The results are not good. I have a tumor. I need surgery urgently or I'm going to die." The lie came out of his mouth with such naturalness that I was almost impressed. Almost. My God, Caleb. What does the doctor say? The tears in his eyes were real. Probably tears of fear for his debts, not for his health. He says, "I need the operation in 2 weeks maximum, but it costs $150,000. Insurance does not cover it because it is experimental. Mom, I do not know what to do." Bianca entered the scene perfectly. She hugged Caleb, crying. "We cannot lose him, Mom. He is very young. He has his whole life ahead of him." They looked at me with pleading eyes, waiting for me, the silly and manipulable mother, to offer the solution. "I do not have that money, son. You saw that in the account. There is only $5,000 left. I know, Mom, but you have the apartment. We can sell it fast. There are buyers who pay in cash. In a week, we have the money and I can have the surgery." Caleb took my hands. His hands were sweating. "I know it is a lot to ask. I know this apartment has memories of Dad, but it is my life, Mom. It is your son." The manipulation was so obvious, so grotesque, that I felt disgust, but I acted perfectly. Sell the apartment. I do not know, Caleb. Where am I going to live with us, Mom, forever? We will take care of you. We will be a family. More lies. The apartment would be sold. They would take the money, flee to Miami, and I would end up in that horrible nursing home waiting for death. "Let me think about it tonight," I told them with a trembling voice. Caleb insisted. "There's no time to think, Mom. Every day counts. Please save your son." Tears ran down his face. Crocodile tears, rehearsed tears. "Okay, let's sell the apartment, but with one condition." "Which one?" Caleb looked anxious, desperate. "That after your operation, the 3 of us go on a trip to somewhere nice to celebrate your recovery." Bianca and Caleb exchanged looks. "Of course, Mom. Wherever you want, I promise." Another lie. But this time, I had control. The next day, Arthur appeared disguised as a real estate agent. He knocked on the door with a briefcase in hand. "Good morning. I am looking for Mrs. Margaret. I have a client interested in this apartment." Caleb let him in immediately. I explained that I needed to sell urgently for medical reasons. Arthur acted perfectly. "I have a buyer who can pay in cash, $160,000. We close in 3 days." Caleb's eyes shone. $10,000 or extra from what they needed. 3 days. "Are you sure?" "Completely. My client is an investor. He buys properties fast. Tomorrow I bring the papers to sign. The day after tomorrow we have the cashier's check." Arthur left, leaving a fake card. As soon as he left, I heard Caleb and Bianca celebrating in their room. $160,000. It is perfect. We give $150 to Trey and keep $10 for expenses. "And your mom?" Bianca asked. "We take her to the nursing home the day we receive the check. We tell her we are going to do some paperwork. We leave her there and go straight to the airport. She is not going to suspect. No, I am going to give her some sleeping pills at breakfast. She is going to be so groggy she won't even know where she is. Sleeping pills. They plan to drug me to leave me in a nursing home without me being able to defend myself, without being able to ask for help. They were going to abandon me as if I were trash. And all this while I listened to every word recorded, every plan documented, every crime. 2 days later, Arthur returned with the papers. I signed. Caleb signed as a witness. Everything looked legal and official. "The check will be ready tomorrow at noon. You can pick it up at my office." Arthur gave them the address. Caleb almost danced with happiness. "Tomorrow, Mom. Tomorrow I have the money for my operation. You saved my life." He hugged me. He smelled of expensive perfume that he probably bought with my money. I felt his heart beat against my chest, the heart of the son I raised, the son who now planned to destroy me. And I felt nothing. I did not feel love. I did not feel pain. I only felt the cold weight of justice waiting for its moment. That night, they packed the suitcases. I heard them talking about Miami Beach's restaurant's freedom. Bianca called Trey. "Tomorrow we have the money. The day after tomorrow we are there. Prepare everything." Trey's voice sounded excited on the other end. "Perfect, my love. I await you." "We are going to be rich, my love." Bianca called him my love. While she was married to my son, while she lived in his house, while they planned to rob me together, the level of betrayal was so deep that it was almost admirable in its pure evil. The next morning, Caleb prepared breakfast. Pancakes with maple syrup, my favorite. "Eat. Mom, you need energy for today." I noticed that my orange juice had a strange taste, slightly bitter. The sleeping pills she mentioned. I pretended to drink it all. I pretended to feel dizzy half an hour later. I feel weird. "Son, it is stress. Mom, rest a little. We will wake you up when it is time to go for the check." They took me to my room. I lay down. I closed my eyes. I heard them leave and close the door. As soon as their footsteps faded, I got up. I took out the phone and called Mike. They already tried to drug me. They are going for the check in 2 hours. Everything ready. Everything ready. Arthur will give them the check. They will buy the plane tickets for tomorrow. And tomorrow at the airport in Miami, the FBI will be waiting for them. I have agents coordinated both here and there. 2 hours later, I heard them return. They entered my room. "Mom, wake up. We have the check. Look." Caleb showed me the cashier's check, $160,000. Fake, but he did not know it. "We are going to the bank to deposit it now. And tomorrow early I travel to Houston for the operation." Another lie. He was not going to Houston. He was going to Miami. "Can I go with you?" I asked with a weak voice. "No, Mom. It is better that you rest. The trip is very heavy. I will be back in a week and tell you everything." Caleb kissed my forehead. For the last time, although he did not know it yet. Take care, son. You too, Mom. I love you. The emptiest words I ever heard. I watched them leave with the check. I saw them deposited at the bank. The teller processed the deposit without problems. The bank did not know the check was fake yet. It would take 2 days to process and bounce. By then, Caleb and Bianca would already be arrested. But that was not the worst. That night, I heard them pack the final suitcases. Clothes, documents, passports. Bianca called Trey again. Tomorrow at 10 or 0 in the morning, we land. The money is deposited. In 2 days it clears and we transfer it to your account. Prepare the restaurant papers. Everything was going according to their plan. Or so they thought. I stayed awake looking at the ceiling of my room. This house where I lived 30 years. Where my husband carried me in his arms every anniversary. Where Caleb took his first steps. Where we celebrated birthdays, Christmases, graduations. All those memories now stained by betrayal, by greed, by the pure evil of 2 people who swore to love me. At 5 in the morning, I heard movement. They were getting ready to leave. I pretended to be asleep when Caleb entered my room. Mom, we are leaving now. I will be back in a week. Behave yourself. If you need anything, call the neighbor. He did not say, I love you. He did not say, I'm going to miss you. He just closed the door and left. I heard the car start. I heard them drive away. And as soon as the sound of the engine disappeared, I got up. I called Mike. They just left. I am following them. Affirmative. They are heading to the airport. The flight leaves at 8. They land in Miami at 2 in the afternoon local time. The federal agents await them at customs. I showered. I dressed in decent clothes. I put on makeup for the first time in months. I looked in the mirror and saw a different woman. It was not the hunched and confused old lady that Caleb and Bianca knew. It was Margaret. 67 years of experience. 67 years of strength. 67 years of having survived a world that constantly underestimated older women. Arthur arrived at 7. Ready. He asked me. Ready. We got into his car. Let's go to my office. From there, we can monitor everything in real time. I have direct contact with the agents in Miami. The trip was silent. I processed everything. Months of planning, months of pretending, months of silent pain. Everything culminating in the next few hours. In Arthur's office, there was a computer with several windows open. Security cameras at the airport, flight tracking in real time, communication with federal agents. Mike was already there. The flight took off 20 minutes ago. Everything normal. Caleb and Bianca are in their seats. First class. They paid with your money. Of course. First class. Spending every last penny on luxuries while planning to abandon me in a $40 a day nursing home. The irony was brutal. Now we just have to wait. Arthur poured coffee. The 3 of us sat in front of the computer watching the small plane move on the map, approaching Miami, approaching their destruction. 2 hours later, Mike received a call. He put it on speaker. Agent Morrison, Miami FBI Field Office. The flight is about to land. We have 4 agents positioned at the gate, 2 more at the exits. Arrest warrants ready. As soon as they set foot on American soil, they are ours. Perfect. Keep us informed. Mike hung up and looked at me. Are you okay? I do not know if I was okay. I was about to see my son arrested. My only son. The boy I birthed with pain. The boy I took care of when he was sick. The boy who called me his hero, now converted into a criminal. But he chose this path. He chose greed over love. He chose to destroy me. I was only making sure he paid the consequences. I am okay. I lied. Or maybe I did not lie. Maybe I was really okay. Maybe this was what justice felt like. Cold, necessary, painful, but correct. The plane landed at 2 on road to 5 hour in the afternoon. We saw on the security cameras how the passengers began to get off. Caleb and Bianca came out among the first. He was carrying a large suitcase. She had a handbag. They looked relaxed, happy, smiling, believing they had won, believing they had escaped. They walked toward the baggage claim. The officer checked their IDs. He scanned them in the system, and there everything changed. The officer made a signal. 4 uniformed agents approached quickly. Caleb Miller and Bianca Dominguez Miller. You are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Caleb's face changed from happiness to terror in a second. What are you talking about? There has to be a mistake. Bianca tried to run. One of the agents stopped her in 3 steps. They handcuffed her. They checked her bag. Inside, they found the fake check passports and bank transfer documents, all the evidence they needed. You are arrested for bank fraud, elder financial abuse, and conspiracy to commit aggravated theft. Everything you say can be used against you. The handcuffs clicked on my son's wrists. The same hands I held when he was learning to walk, now handcuffed, now property of the justice system. Other passengers stopped. They took out phones. They recorded the scene was public, humiliating, perfect. Caleb was screaming, "It is a mistake. Call my mother. She's going to explain to you how ironic," calling the victim to save him, calling the woman he planned to drug and abandon, calling the mother he thought too stupid to defend herself. Bianca did not scream. Bianca cried. Real tears this time. Tears of terror, of knowing that everything was over, of understanding that someone had outsmarted them at their own game. The agents took them to an interrogation room. The cameras continued transmitting. Agent Morrison, here we have them. They are in the process of interrogation. The victim wants to make a video statement. Mike looked at me. Do you want to talk to them? Arthur shook his head. You do not have to do it if you do not want to, but I wanted to. I needed to. After 6 months of being silent, of pretending, of being invisible, I needed them to see me, to know, to understand. Yes, I want to talk to them. Mike set up the video call. In seconds, I was connected to the interrogation room in Miami. Caleb and Bianca sitting in metal chairs, handcuffed, surrounded by agents, and on the screen in front of them. I appeared. Caleb almost fell out of the chair. Mom, what is happening? Tell them this is a mistake. Tell them the money is for my operation. His voice was desperate, pathetic. There is no operation, Caleb. There never was an operation. There were only lies. There was only theft. There was only a plan to destroy me and abandon me. The confusion on his face was genuine. What are you talking about, Mom? You are confused. Someone filled your head with crazy ideas. I'm not confused. I was never confused. I was pretending. For 6 months, I pretended to be the senile old lady you wanted me to be. While you planned to rob me, I planned this. Bianca went pale. She understood first. She understood that they had been beaten. You set a trap for us. Her voice trembled. I gave you exactly what you expected. An easy victim, a manipulable fool. But you forgot something important. I worked 42 years seeing the worst of humanity. I learned to recognize predators, and I learned to protect myself. Mom, please. I am your son. You cannot do this to me. Caleb was crying now. Real tears, but not of regret, of fear of knowing his life had just collapsed. You stopped being my son the day you planned to drug me and leave me in a nursing home to steal my money, the day you celebrated the idea of me dying quickly, the day you called me a burden. I can explain. I was desperate. I have debts. Bianca pressured me. It was not my idea. Now he was blaming Bianca. The coward showed his true face. Bianca looked at him with pure hate. You are going to blame me. You wanted the money as much as I did. You were the one who suggested drugging her. Lie. You planned everything. You knew Trey from before. This was your idea from the beginning. They were tearing each other apart, exactly like cowardly criminals do when they get caught. Without honor, without loyalty, just desperate survival. One of the agents intervened. Miss Margaret, we have all the evidence we need. Recordings, documents, testimonies. They are going to go to prison for a long time. Is there anything else you want to say? I looked at Caleb, at that man who was once my baby, and I felt nothing. The love had evaporated, replaced by something colder, more definitive. Just one thing. You thought I was a stupid old woman. You thought you could steal my life and get away with it. But you forgot that mothers know. We always know. And when you betray us, when you turn us into enemies, we are the most dangerous opponents you can have because we know every weakness, every fear, and we have nothing to lose. I cut the call. The screen went black, and right there, I understood that there was something much worse. The following days were a whirlwind of legal procedures. Arthur handled everything. Caleb and Bianca were processed in Miami, but extradited back to our city to face local charges. Bank fraud, elder financial abuse, falsification of documents, attempted illegal appropriation of assets. The accusations piled up like dominoes, falling one after another. Mike showed me his full investigation. Bianca had not only been married to Armando, there were 2 other men before, one in Texas, another in California, both older, both widowers. Both ended up in nursing homes or dead, while she disappeared with their money. The police in both states now had open cases against her. She was a professional predator, an expert in exploiting vulnerable, elderly people. And Caleb, my son, my only son. The investigations revealed that his gambling debts were worse than I thought. It was not $80,000. It was $120,000. He had emptied savings accounts. He had used credit cards in my name. He had forged my signature on loans. For 2 years, he had been stealing from me systematically, and I had not realized it because I trusted him blindly. Margaret, I need you to come testify. Arthur called me a week after the arrest. The prosecutor wants your testimony to ensure long sentences. With your declaration, Caleb could receive between 4 and 7 years. Bianca between 8 and 12, considering her record 4 to 7 years, my son in prison. The idea turned my stomach. But then I remembered his laugh when he planned to drug me. I remembered his words. She is taking a long time to die. I remembered how he turned me into his servant while robbing me. I am going to testify. I'm going to say every detail, every lie, every manipulation. I want them to pay for everything. My voice sounded hard. Arthur paused. Are you sure he is your son? Once you testify, there is no going back. He is going to go to prison. I do not have a son anymore. I have a criminal who shares my last name, nothing more. The hearing was 3 weeks later. I entered the courtroom dressed in a dark green suit that I had not worn since my husband's funeral. My hair combed my back, straight nothing of the hunched and confused old lady that Caleb and Bianca knew. They were sitting at the defendant's table. Caleb looked at me with pleading eyes. Bianca did not even turn around. The prosecutor called me to the stand. I swore to tell the truth, and I said all of it. Every detail of the last 2 years. The manipulation, the isolation, the financial exploitation, the conversations I heard, planning my destruction, the sleeping pills they tried to give me, the nursing home where they wanted to lock me up, the plan to flee to Miami with my stolen money. I spoke for 2 hours without crying, without trembling, with the steady voice of someone who was no longer afraid. The defense attorney tried to discredit me. Miss Margaret, is it not true that you have memory problems, that your family was worried about your mental deterioration? I laughed. A short, dry laugh. I feigned mental deterioration as a strategy. For 6 months, I acted. Every lapse was intentional. Every confusion was theater. And it worked because you underestimate older people. Are you saying you deceived your own family? I am saying I defended myself from 2 criminals who planned to rob me and abandon me if that required faking dementia. I did it without hesitating. The jury listened attentively. Some nodded. An older woman in the front row had tears in her eyes. She understood me. She knew exactly what I was talking about. Caleb asked to speak. The judge allowed it. "Mom, please forgive me. I made terrible mistakes, but I am your son. You cannot destroy me like this. Think of everything we lived through together. How I took care of you when Dad died. How much I love you." His voice was breaking, but I felt nothing anymore. "You took care of me after Dad died because you were calculating how much my grief was worth. You stole from me while pretending to love me. You turned me into your employee while planning to lock me up. You are not my son. My son died the day he decided that my life was worth less than $150,000. The silence in the room was absolute. Caleb lowered his head, defeated. The judge reviewed the documents, the recordings, the photographic evidence, the testimonies from Mike and Arthur. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. The court finds Caleb Miller guilty of all charges. Sentence 6 years in prison. Bianca Dominguez Miller guilty of all charges plus multiple priors. Sentence 12 years in prison. The bang of the gavel resonated like thunder. Caleb screamed, "No, Mom, please do something," but I was already leaving the room. Arthur walked by my side. "You did good," he told me. "I do not feel like I did good. I just feel like I did what was necessary." Outside the courthouse, several journalists were waiting for me. The story had become media fodder. "Elderly woman thwarts son and daughter-in-laws plan to rob her," said the headlines. They asked me for interviews. I refused all except one. A local news program wanted to talk about financial abuse of the elderly. I accepted with one condition, that they use my story to educate others. The interview aired 2 weeks later. I talked about the red flags about how predators isolate their victims, about the importance of protecting assets legally, about never giving total access to bank accounts, without independent supervision, about trusting your instinct when something feels wrong. The program received thousands of calls, seniors sharing similar stories, families reporting abuses. My nightmare served to help others. 1 month after the sentencing, I received a letter. It was from Caleb from prison. I opened it with trembling hands. "Mom, I have had time to think, to understand what I did. I know asking for forgiveness is not enough. I know I destroyed everything, but I need you to know that I am sorry. The debts blinded me. Bianca manipulated me. But those are not excuses. I made the decisions. I betrayed you, and I am going to live with that the rest of my life. If one day you can forgive me, do not do it for me. Do it for you, so I can move forward without this weight. I love you. I will always love you." Even though I no longer have the right, I read the letter 3 times. I looked for signs of manipulation, of pleas for money, for lawyers or appeals. But there was nothing like that. Just words that arrived too late. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. I did not answer it. Maybe one day I would, but that day was not today. But that was not the worst. 2 months after the sentencing, I received a call from the Miami police. "Miss Margaret, I am Detective Ramirez. We have news about Trey Reyes." My heart accelerated. I had almost forgotten the third accomplice, the man waiting in Miami, Bianca's partner in previous crimes. "Did you arrest him?" Yes and no. When he found out that Bianca and Caleb were arrested, he tried to flee to Mexico. We caught him at the border. But here comes the interesting part. When we checked his record, we found something that is going to surprise you. The detective paused. Trey Reyes has an international arrest warrant. He has been operating an elderly fraud ring in 4 countries. Bianca was just one of his operators. There are at least 12 more victims. 12 more victims, 12 destroyed families, 12 elderly people, robbed, abandoned, humiliated. Thanks to your report and the evidence you gathered, we were able to connect all the cases. Trey is going to face federal charges totaling more than 50 years in prison. Bianca will also be charged with international conspiracy. Her sentence of 12 years will probably double. I hung up the phone, feeling something strange. Satisfaction, justice. Not exactly. I felt the weight of having been the one who finally stopped a massive criminal operation, but also the pain of knowing that my son was part of that Caleb, without knowing it, had associated with professional criminals. He was victim and perpetrator at the same time. Arthur helped me regain full control of my finances. The trust was dissolved. My money returned to normal accounts, but this time with legal protections preventing third-party access. I also recovered the $5,000 that Caleb deposited from the fake check. The bank froze them as evidence and later returned them to me. I sold the apartment. I could not keep living there. Every corner had poisoned memories. The kitchen where I became a servant, the living room where I heard my destruction planned, the room where I pretended to be drugged while they celebrated. Everything was contaminated. A real buyer offered $220,000. I accepted. With that money and my recovered savings, I had more than $400,000 more than I ever imagined having. But the money no longer meant the same thing. It was no longer security. It was a reminder that greed destroys everything it touches. I decided to use it differently in a way that honored the pain but also created something good. I contacted Rachel, my neighbor from the old apartment, the only friend I had during those dark years. "Rachel, I need your help." I explained my plan. She cried. "Margaret, that is beautiful. Count on me for whatever you need." I bought a small house in a coastal town 3 hours away, a quiet place where no one knew my story, where I could start over without the pitying looks or neighbors' comments. The house had 2 bedrooms, a small garden, and an ocean view from the kitchen window. It was perfect, but I did not move alone. I used part of the money to create a temporary shelter, a place where older adults who were victims of financial or family abuse could stay while resolving their legal situation. I hired a full-time lawyer, a social worker, an accountant. My house became a resource center, a safe place. The first person who arrived was Stella. She was 72 years old. Her daughter and son-in-law had stripped her of her pension for 5 years. They had her living in a room without heating while they renovated their house with her money. Stella arrived with a broken suitcase and fear in her eyes. "I do not know if I can pay to stay here. You do not have to pay anything. You just need to heal and fight for what is yours." I gave her the guest room. I prepared hot food for her. I introduced her to the lawyer. In 3 months, Stella recovered her pension, sued her daughter, and found a small apartment where she now lives in peace. Before leaving, she hugged me crying. "You gave me my life back." Afterward came Erica, 65 years old. Her brother had convinced her to put her house in his name. Then he kicked her out and sold the property. Erica was living in her car when she found me. We worked 6 months on her case. We proved fraud. She recovered her house, and her brother went to prison for 2 years. Erica now works as a volunteer at the shelter helping other victims. Every story I heard was an echo of mine. Families destroyed by greed. Elderly people treated like disposable resources. Love turned into a transaction. And every person I helped healed me a little, reminded me that my pain had a purpose, that I could turn poison into medicine. 6 months after moving, I received another letter from Caleb. This time, he did not speak of regret. He spoke of need. "Mom, prison is horrible. I do not have money for the commissary. I cannot buy basic things. Please send me even just $100 a month just to survive." There it was. The true reason for his previous letter. It was not regret. It was preparation, softening me up with pretty words to ask for money later. The same pattern as always, manipulation disguised as love. I tore up the letter. I did not answer. I did not send money. Caleb needed to face the full consequences of his actions. No lifelines, no rescues. One day, while working in the garden, I saw a car stop in front of my house. A woman got out. Gray hair, tired face, sad eyes. She rang the doorbell. "Miss Margaret?" I nodded. "I am Clara Armando Salazar's sister." The name hit me like a fist. Armando Bianca's first husband, the man who died leaving her everything. "How did you find me?" Clara took out an old newspaper, the article about my case. "I read your story. I saw Bianca Dominguez's name. I investigated. I confirmed it was the same woman who destroyed my brother. I came to thank you. Thank you for what? For stopping her. For doing what we could not. My brother died believing Bianca loved him. He died not knowing she had used him. You unmasked her. You put her in prison. You gave justice to my brother and all her victims." Clara hugged me. Two strangers united by the same predator. "Did your brother really die of natural causes?" I asked. Clara shook her head. "The doctor said yes, but he was healthy. Suddenly he got worse in weeks, just after changing the will. I always suspected Bianca gave him something, but we could not prove it." "I'm so sorry," Clara wiped her tears. "It is not your fault. It is hers. Bianca's and all the predators like her. But I also came to tell you something else. Do not blame yourself for your son. I know what it is to love someone who chose the dark side. My brother chose to believe Bianca over us, his family. Your son chose greed over you. Both made decisions, and you did the right thing, protecting yourself." Her words released me from a weight I did not even know I was carrying. Residual guilt. The constant question of could I have prevented it? Clara left an hour later, but she left me something invaluable. Perspective. I did not destroy Caleb. Caleb destroyed himself. I just refused to be destroyed with him. That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. Today, I understood that saving others is not going to bring my son back, but it brings me back to myself. Every person I help is proof that the abuse did not break me. It transformed me. I closed the journal, feeling something I had not felt in years. Peace. But that was not the worst. 2 years have passed since that morning when I found the note on the refrigerator. 2 years since my life split in two, the before and after. Now I am 69 years old. My hair is completely gray. I have more wrinkles around my eyes, but I also have something I did not have before. True freedom. The shelter I created has helped 23 people. 23 elderly people who recovered their dignity, their money, or at least their peace of mind. Some cases we won, others we lost. But in all of them, the victims knew they were not alone, that someone believed in them, that their pain mattered. Rachel moved to the coastal town too. She bought a house 2 blocks from mine. We have breakfast together every Saturday. We walk on the beach every afternoon. She is the sister I never had the family I chose, instead of the one that betrayed me. Caleb served 2 years of his sentence. He still has 4 left. I have not gone to visit him. I have not answered his letters. I receive one every 3 months approximately. They all say the same thing. Regret pleas for forgiveness, veiled requests for money. I keep them in a box in the closet without opening most. Maybe one day I will read them all. Maybe one day I can forgive. But that day has not arrived yet. Bianca now faces 20 years in prison after the international charges were added. Trey received 42 years. At his age, it is a life sentence. The fraud ring they operated was dismantled. 14 victims in total recovered part of their money. 5 families filed civil lawsuits. The empire of lies crumbled completely. 6 months ago, I received an unexpected call. "Miss Margaret, I am Daniel Armando Salazar's son, another ghost from Bianca's past. Clara gave me your number. I wanted to thank you personally and also ask you something." My heart raced. "What do you need?" "We are preparing a civil lawsuit against Bianca to recover the money she stole from my father. We need you to testify about her pattern of behavior. Your case is the most documented. With your testimony, we can prove she is a professional scammer." I accepted without hesitation. 2 weeks later, I was in a different court telling my story again, this time to help another family obtain justice. The Salazar family won. They recovered $180,000 from hidden accounts Bianca had. Daniel invited me to dinner after the verdict. My father would be grateful. "You did what we could not stop her permanently." We toasted to Armando, to all the victims, to late justice, but finally arrived. In the afternoons when the sun sets over the ocean, I sit in the garden with a cup of tea. I think about the woman I was 2 years ago, that scared, manipulated, invisible woman. That woman who allowed herself to be treated like a servant in her own family. That woman no longer exists. She was replaced by someone stronger, wiser, more careful, but also braver. Do I miss Caleb? I miss the child. He was the teenager who hugged me after school. The young man who cried on my shoulder when his first love left him. But that Caleb died a long time ago. He was replaced by a stranger who chose greed over love. And that man I do not miss. That man I do not know. Last week, I gave a lecture at a community center about financial protection for seniors. 200 people attended. Afterward, a woman of 75 approached me crying. "My son is asking me to put my house in his name. He says it is to protect me from taxes. But something feels wrong." I gave her Arthur's number. I explained the red flags. I hugged her and said, "Trust your instinct. If it feels wrong, it probably is." 2 days later, I received a message from her. I talked to the lawyer. "My son has huge debts. He wanted to sell my house to pay them. You saved me. I did not save her." She saved herself by listening to that inner voice warning her of danger. I only gave her permission to trust that voice. Last night, I had a dream. I was at the Miami airport, but it was not the day of Caleb's arrest. It was another day, a future day. Caleb was coming out of prison. He had gray hair, a hunched back, tired eyes. He was looking for me in the crowd, and I was there not to hug him, not to forgive him, just to look him in the eyes and say, "You survived. Me too." Now we both know what betrayal costs. I woke up with tears on my cheeks. I do not know if I will ever have that encounter. I do not know if I want to have it. But the dream taught me something. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It means letting go of the poison. It means stopping carrying the hate as if it were a treasure. And that slowly I am achieving. Today is a normal day. The sun shines. The sea sounds constant and reassuring. I have an appointment with a new resident of the shelter, a man of 73, whose wife abandoned him after emptying his retirement accounts. I am going to listen to his story. I am going to connect him with legal resources. I'm going to remind him that he deserves dignity. Before leaving, I pass in front of the hallway mirror. I stop. I really look at myself. I see a woman of 69 who survived a devastating betrayal, who turned her pain into purpose, who refused to be a victim forever, who learned that self-love is more important than filial love when that love becomes destructive. I smile to myself. It is a small but real smile. And I leave my house toward another day of rebuilding broken lives, toward another day of proving that we seniors are not easy targets. We are survivors. We are silent warriors. And when they underestimate us, when they turn us into enemies, they discover too late that decades of life experience made us the most dangerous opponents they could choose. They thought I was going to cry alone. They thought I was going to break. They thought I was a silly old woman easy to destroy. They did not know that I had spent 6 months preparing, and now 2 years later I keep preparing. Not to take more revenge, but to make sure that no other older person has to go through what I went through alone. To be the voice I did not have. To be the protection I needed. My son is in prison. My daughter-in-law faces decades behind bars. My money is safe. My life is mine again. And although the price was extremely high, although I lost my only son in the process, I gained something more valuable. I won myself back, and that I discovered is priceless. This is my story. The story of how a betrayed mother became her own savior, of how love transformed into justice, of how feigned weakness became real strength, and of how a note on the refrigerator changed everything, but not in the way they expected. In the end, they traveled to Miami looking for freedom, and they found prison. I stayed behind, supposedly defeated, and I found liberation.